in all fairness, I was not going to react to this video, but Tuhu really wants me to react to this. And I said, sure, why not? Anybody who ever asked me to react to their video, I always will. And I'll play it down the middle. I pretty much have no idea what this is. Don't know if it's good. Don't know if it's bad. Usually I try to steer clear of Mtashed content for personal reasons, but I'm down to play this shit down the middle, so let's see how it goes.
So dudes, it's your boy Tuhu. Recently I had a guy ask me...
That being said, regardless of whatever this video is, I do have a lot of respect for Tuhu as one of the actual real gacha gamers in this category. There's a lot of people in this space who say, oh yeah, dude, I'm a gacha game player, and then all they play is Hoyoverse games and Wuthering Waves. And it's like, bro, these motherfuckers don't know about the Arc Knights. They don't know about the Ulalas, the Sinoalis, the Elunes, the Summoner's War, the fucking FGOs, the fucking Pokemon Pocket, Pokemon Unite, all that shit. This place is paraded by tourists. These people are paraded by tourists, and the same motherfuckers who are calling other people tourists because they don't play Honkai Star Rail 18 hours a fucking day are the same motherfuckers who don't even know what Epic 7 is. People are fake as fuck. You know it as well as I know it. If there's a Mount Rushmore of gacha gaming, my face is on there, Lakari's face is on there, Tuhu's face is on there, and Fob's face is on there. I'll be real, everybody else got to put up a fight. Everybody else got to put up their fucking dukes and prove that they fucking belong. Maybe YDCB, but he kind of went a little bit nuts. Anyways, let's keep going.
My stream if I was going to play this game that Mtashed said he was working on, an upcoming game called...
I did not know that Mtashed was working on a game. I look forward to seeing it. I had no idea this was happening.
Godforge. I knew that Mtashed had made a video about it before on his YouTube channel, but I didn't watch it then, so I decided to go check it out now that some of my own chats brought it up to me. And after watching that and a demo video for Godforge that the developers of the game put out on their own YouTube channel, I have a few things to say about him, or to put it more bluntly, I'm gonna talk a whole bunch of shit about the game, and more specifically, Mtashed's involvement with it. First, I should clarify...
Oh, man! Oh, man! Oh, no. Alright, let's see. Let's keep it fair. Let's see if Tuhu's just being nuts.
Clarify right now that I don't know Mtashed personally or anything, right? I never even talked to the guy.
Well,
we might have been on the same Gacha cast episode that Tectone hosts that one time I was on it, but the point is that he sure as fuck doesn't know me. I don't watch his content regularly, and before I watched his Godforge promo video, the most I knew about him was that he's the guy who keeps saying he's gonna quit this or that MiHoYo game, but doesn't because he doesn't want to have to go back to making Diablo or Destiny 2 videos that get half or less the views that his gacha videos do. Or at least that's what I assume. That, and I have a chip in my shoulder when it comes to the gacha content.
Guys, I think this guy doesn't like Mtashed. I think this guy doesn't like Mtashed, man. I can't tell. I really can't tell. Man, oh man.
Creation community as a whole, not just Mtashed, because honestly, I think a lot of y'all are fucking fake as shit and shouldn't even be considered gacha YouTubers or streamers if the only gacha games you play are MiHoYo and or Wuthering Waves. And no,
that's what I just said! That's what I just fucking said, bro! I said that shit verbatim. Verbatim. True. Call out the goddamn frauds, bro. Cook their ass, man. Cook their ass.
Oh, getting sponsored to play a smaller gacha for like a day or two, and then never touching again afterwards ain't good enough. If you want to know more about why I feel this way, or if you're just wondering who the fuck this weeb is with all these anime body pillows hung up on the wall behind him, talking shit, go-
No, this is so fair. You want to know why this is so fair? Because so many fucking gacha tourists came into this space in Genshin Impact and were like, oh, dude, the game's fine. What do you mean? The game's so generous. Dude, the game's so good. Look at that. Oh, dude, look at that Paimon. And it's because they don't have any prior knowledge of what the fuck the space was. So they come into the space they have no experience of. They have no ideas of. And they go to the guy who's been playing this shit his whole life and saying, oh, you're wrong. Yeah, bitch, because that's all you know, dumbass. And so I warned these fuckers, and I warned these fuckers, and I warned these fuckers, and look where we are. We're now in the state where the only voice actor in Genshin Impact is fucking Paimon. Every other character was mute, except for fucking Paimon. Well, I hope you're happy now. I hope you're happy now. Fucking insane.
Go watch these 2 previous videos of mine. They'll explain where I'm coming from better than I will here. Links in the description. Now that you have this context, and having watched Mtashed's Godforge video and the 2.0 developer demo video, so that you guys don't have to, let me break down all the problems that I have with the game and Mtashed's involvement with it. First problem, in no particular order by the way, Mtash says that the graphics in this game look, quote, incredible, unquote. I'm not a 3D animator or anything, so I can't tell you how good the models are.
No, it looks pretty shit.
Maybe the 3D models themselves are actually quite high fidelity, so I hesitate to comment on the graphics themselves specifically. At the very least, I don't personally have an issue with them. What I do have a problem with is the presentation. Like, there's nothing about this game that intrigues me in particular. Like, I'm not captivated or impressed by what I'm seeing. The character designs are nothing special, the animations are bland and lack impact. Like, what the hell is this animation supposed to be? I assume the characters have voice lines, but I couldn't hear any of them, or at least not well, in either Mtash's video or the demo to get a sense of how the units themselves are characterized, so that doesn't help. I mean, this is their gacha summoning animation, for God's sake. Like, I don't give a shit that this is supposed to be like a pre-alpha build or whatever the fuck. You're out here asking for beta signups, and you don't even have a fucking summoning animation done yet? One of the most important aspects of a gacha...
I don't want to go too hard on the guy for a pre-alpha summoning animation, to be honest. I think this is kind of a moot point, but yeah, let's keep going. I mean, if it is pre-alpha, I mean, you gotta understand, like, we're way back. You know what I'm saying? So, like, in all fairness, I think we can pull a punch a little bit and give him a little bit more time.
The game is the presentation, whether it's the graphics themselves or the animations or whatever else.
Sure.
There needs to be something visual about the game that
yeah, I guess, but summoning animations matter? Yeah, well, I mean, it's pre-alpha footage, you know what I'm saying? Like, imagine how many people were shitting on Wuthering Waves for, like, their alpha footage, when in reality it's like, oh, bro, this looks so bad. Yeah, that's because it's fucking alpha footage, you know what I'm saying?
Stands out to potential players to give them a reason to come try your game, to hook them in so that you then have a chance to show them what the rest of the game is really made of, and then turn them into a regular player who will then stick with your game and keep playing it. At least for a while. But judging from what I've seen so far, Godforge doesn't really have much of that visual hook that I'm looking for. I guess maybe the only thing that I can think of is its whole aesthetic. Like, if you're a big fan of ancient mythologies from around the world and seeing them all together in the same universe and interacting with each other, but you're not a filthy weeb or anything, and you prefer a more, let's just say, Western art style, then maybe you'd give this game a try. And even if the
I think the only Western gacha that ever succeeded with non-anime graphics was RSL, and that game fell off dramatically after they stopped dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into advertising. RSL succeeded because they had so much excess income to sponsor every single creative where it's pretty much, you couldn't really avoid that ad if you tried, but even still, that game has horrendously fallen off since.
Graphics were what people considered to be good. That doesn't mean shit to me, because the game itself looks boring. Again, it doesn't give me a compelling enough reason for me to go try it. So at the end of the day, why would I bother with this game when I already play a game like Honkai Star Rail? Speaking of Star Rail, the second problem that I have is with the gameplay itself, and I'm going off of the gameplay that was in, like I said earlier, the Godforge 2.0 demo video that the Fateless devs themselves put up on their YouTube channel. The best way that I can describe this is Raid Shadow Legends had an unwanted bastard child with Star Rail, and this is what you get. You have the Raid aesthetic or art style that's combined with the Star Rail UI. The turn order is in the top left, your character icons that display their health and other information along the bottom left, the third person over the shoulder camera angle for your units, buttons for auto and pause and other stuff on the top right, and the action buttons like basic attack and skill on the bottom right. Hell, your character's status effects like buffs and debuffs are even shown underneath their health bars, and enemies have their own HPs and whatever that yellow bar is supposed to be displayed right over them, just like in Star Rail. Given that Mtashed said that he's a consultant for this game, it sounded like, and is helping out with QA and design work, I believe, I don't think any of this is a coincidence. Maybe some things are taken from Raid Shadow Legends instead, I wouldn't know, I don't play Raid, but as someone who's played Star Rail since launch, and am still playing it, when I look at this battle UI, I know exactly where it comes from.
Yeah,
but if it were only the UI design that got copy-pasted from Star Rail, then I wouldn't really care that much. After all, you can argue that, Wuthering Waves copy-pasted their UI from Genshin, and no one seems to have a problem with that, right?
Well, they did. Personally, I have no issue with people taking inspiration or even yoinking from other games, as long as they put their own twist to make it better. Right? And if they do yoink and make a worse version, then we're all going to relentlessly make fun of them because we're all familiar with the competition of where it came from. So it's a blessing and a curse, but that's pretty much a one-for-one from Star Rail, 100%.
No, what makes this an actual problem for me is that it really looks like they just straight up copied Star Rail's core gameplay too. Every character in this game looks like they have a basic attack, skill, and ultimate. They also have a faction they belong to, an element, or whatever the equivalent of that is in this game, and a class. Your teams have 4 characters who fight one by one when their turn comes up, and they can only use either their basic or skill unless they have their ultimate, in which case it seems like they can pop it whenever they want. Just like in Star Rail. Again, this isn't necessarily an issue on its own. You can have...
I mean, the other thing is, and let's just be completely fair, I mean, that's kind of like a lot of turn-based RPGs. It's kind of, that's a lot of turn-based RPGs. You have your skill 1, skill 2, and all. That's like a lot of RPGs, man. But yeah, it's like, what else do you really want them to do for a turn-based RPG? There's not really that much you can do with it. Once again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, if I were to go on this video and just completely shit on Mtashed, it'd be a massive net positive. But I am playing I think I'm being pretty fair here. I think I'm being pretty fair.
Games that are clearly inspired by others, and to use the WoW example again, Wuthering Waves has pretty similar gameplay to Genshin, at least on the surface. But the more you play WoW, the more you realize it's not quite the same as Genshin, because Genshin is much more about, team building and elemental reactions and stuff like that, whereas WoW is a lot more dodge this, bitch. I hope the same goes for Godforge, where it's...
Nah, Genshin is like, ooh, goo goo gaga. Goo goo gaga, everybody wins. And Wuthering Waves is, yeah, well, you tried. Maybe just go again.
It's at least a little more than just, a Western take on Star Rail. Maybe this game has additional mechanics that differentiates gameplay enough from Star Rail to make it feel more like its own game once you've been playing it enough. But all this leads up to my biggest issue when it comes to the gameplay.
Okay.
It's using Star Rail as its inspiration. Of all the games it could have copied its gameplay from, for whatever godforsaken reason, they chose Star Rail.
Well, the reason is most likely because a turn-based RPG is the easiest one to produce, because you need the lowest amount of animations and the characters need to do the least, right? So, yeah, also, like, you don't need to do world design, you don't need to make it open world, right? It's just people are used to these 4 characters stand statically, repeat idle animation, press a button, you win. Right, so the reason why they're doing that is most likely for budget reasons, for filling out the space.
And I just want to ask, why?
Well, also because Star Rail's a really good game.
Mtashed says in his promo video that he wants Godforge to be a knowledge-based game. And in the context of turn-based games, knowledge is more or less skill, because the more you know about how a turn-based game works, as in its mechanics and such, the better you'll play, obviously.
Sure.
Since it's not like, mechanical skill like aim or dodging is a thing in this genre.
That's very fair. That's very fair. I'm of the advocacy where turn-based RPG games don't take skill, they just take knowledge. But if people want to consider knowledge skill, I guess that's fair, but I just find that shit lame as fuck. Oh, wow, you read a book. You're so skillful. Wow, you actually read the enemy's text. Oh, sugoi desu ne. I'm just like not reading that shit, bro. Like, I'm just not. I'm straight up, I'm not reading that shit. You will not catch me reading that shit. Absolutely not.
So for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna have to assume that Mtashed wants Godforge to be a skill-based game. But
Sure.
I don't know if he's aware, but Star Rail is far from a skill-based game because it's an extremely simple game as far as turn-based games go. Star Rail's gameplay boils down to countering enemy elements and rolling gacha so you can use the latest and greatest limited 5-star character to then go destroy any of the endgame modes with them, because the enemies you face there, and the extra battle conditions there, favor you having that latest character. Like, the most complicated mechanics that I can think of in Star Rail are things like speed threshold.
Love Mina, and Mina loves me too. Guys, go tell Mina how much you appreciate Tectone, because she loves hearing about it.
Where your units gain more actions per cycle at specific speed stats, and Yunli's ult, which surprisingly requires you to have pretty extensive knowledge of enemy attacks and good situational awareness so you don't end up wasting it and having it do a lot less damage because Yunli didn't parry an enemy attack properly. And no, before you ask, I don't think zero cycling in Star Rail is all that impressive because
Hey bro, I do that shit now. I do that shit. That shit's easy as fuck. That shit's easy as fuck. Do this, do this, do this. Oh, boom. Ooh, insane, bro. Anything is easy as fuck when you got a fucking E1 Robin, an E1 Black Swan, a fucking E2 Face Shao, bro. If I get an E2 Face Shao, bro, I'll fucking zero cycle on auto, brother. I'll zero cycle on fucking auto. Summon Mr. Pokey? Nah, this is why he dropped this shit after Pokey left, because he knew that Pokey would lose his fucking mind if he said that shit. Yeah, listen, no, I will say, zero cycling, right? Character development, zero cycling is very fun. Is it truly skill-based? Not really. Once again, if you consider knowledge skill-based, that's your prerogative. Not to mean like reading. I think chess is a very skill-based game, but majority of Honkai Star Rail is, all right, learn these characters' speed thresholds, team build, and know what the other characters do. You win. Right, but that's just me. Well, not high skill. There is a little bit of low skill there for sure, but it's nothing crazy, right? I'm sure we all agree here that zero cyclers in Honkai Star Rail are not on the same level as League of Legends players or Valorant players at upper echelon tiers, right? And zero cycling kind of is the upper echelon of what you can do that requires skill in Honkai Star Rail, but they're nowhere on the same level as Apex players, PUBG players, right? It's still very fun and you can enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, like the problem is that when people zero cycle, they get far too much of an ego, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, it's a little bit cringe. It's a little cringe.
All they boil down to are Eidolons and luck-sacking the fuck out of your relics.
True.
Go try doing an FGOTA, and then we'll talk. So if Star Rail is a very simple game mechanically, and Godforge is basing its gameplay on that, how skill-based is Godforge gonna be exactly? Again, I assume that the developers will add more mechanics to differentiate its gameplay from Star Rail at least a little bit, but I have some very real doubts at the moment as to how much knowledge you'll really need to have to play this game. And to make matters,
I think the issue here is the game's actually going to be more like Raid Shadow Legends rather than Star Rail. Yeah, that would be a huge issue because the only reason why Raid succeeded is because it was like kind of like the first big gacha in Western audiences. People didn't know what it was. They got the initial 2-week hook with endless amounts of advertising, and then people got hooked before they could actually quit. But that game fell off very hard after the advertising boom is over. So yeah, copying that could be a massive red flag.
There's worse. Mtashed also said that Godforge will have PvP. And it seems like he wants it, or at least a part of it, to be as fair and balanced as possible, where gear and whaling for gacha characters won't be a factor, and it'll be more about how good you are at the game.
Yeah, that's how it always starts. But that ain't how it ends. You got to know this. If you're a gacha game and you're doing PvP, just say it. We want you to spend money to win. Don't try to be cute about it. Just fucking say it. Spend money and you will be a god. Okay? Because we all know you ain't going to make that system fair and balanced. Absolutely not.
Good and all, sure. But if Godforge ends up not being that much more mechanically dense than Star Rail is, then again, how much skill is there really gonna be?
They're also cooked because that new Honkai Star Rail, but with PvP, is coming out by the end of the year. And I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna play the fuck out of that. That game looked good as fuck. I can't remember the goddamn name, but I'm going to play the fuck out. I'm going to drop a band. I'm going to drop a band day one. and just ruin that goddamn leaderboard. And then I'm going to get 9 of my homies to spend a goddamn band day 1 and just crush that shit. Memento, White Shadow, yeah, something like that.
Also question his credentials when it comes to the kind of work that he's done for Godforge. In his video, Mtashed says that he's consulted on things like clan boss design, PvP, and monetization. And after seeing the actual gameplay, it's quite easy to assume that he also probably told the Fateless devs to go look at Star Rail for some inspiration. But how much does he know about these things really? Like, some gameplay aspects I'm sure he knows a thing or two about, like boss fight design perhaps, since he comes from a Diablo and Destiny background, judging from his previous non-gacha content, so I won't judge him there. But PvP? If you want to design a gacha PvP, then I would hope that you have extensive experience playing other gachas that have PvP to understand what makes them work or not.
I don't want to go after Bro's entire credibility. I think Mtashed is a pretty well-knowledgeable individual. Yeah, I think he's fine. Do I think he has... I mean, this is a fair point. Obviously, he hasn't done gacha PvP, which is something that I've done for years. But I mean, I feel like Mtashed is a fine consultant. Plus, I think this video is assuming that he's the sole consultant for this entire games design. I'm pretty sure he's just a guy they talk to every now and then.
Because a PvP experience in a gacha game is quite a bit different than what you'll find in other normal games. And again, looking at his YouTube content, I don't see very many non-MiHoYo gachas that he's made videos for that weren't, sponsored videos most likely. In my eyes, he's just another generic gacha content creator who rode the initial Genshin popularity wave back in 2020 and still makes his daily bread from MiHoYo games, and that's it. And given that I've been told that he doesn't even like gacha games all that much, he doesn't particularly strike me as the kind of dude who plays other gacha games off camera. I know very little about game development, and usually I don't...
I mean, okay. Now, if Mtashed takes offense to that, that's weird. Because we all know bro hates gacha games. Like, we know bro hates gacha. It's the same thing every time. He plays a game, says he hates that it's gacha, and then he gets depressed, and then he quits. Right? Like, bro is a PoE player, and he doesn't know, but he is a PoE player.
Don't, go out of my way to criticize someone in a field that I don't feel qualified to speak in. But in this case, I would like to think that if you're being hired as a consultant for something, you should at least have a lot of experience in regards to the field that the project you're working on is in. Maybe Mtashed has a lot of experience in some areas that the Fateless devs find very valuable, and all credit to him if that's the case. And I actually fully agree with what Mtashed says in his video about how gacha games need to be played as actual games, that playing the game itself needs to be treated as a priority, so I think he's at least got the right mindset to work on Godforge. But considering the game they're working on is a gacha, and gacha games are quite a bit different from normal games, I would expect Mtashed to also have a lot of experience with gacha games specifically. But at the moment, with what I know about him and what I've seen, I don't think he does. And perhaps my biggest problem with Mtashed's video is this: he doesn't call Godforge a gacha. Not once in his entire video does he label it as a gacha game. The wording he specifically uses to describe it is a hero collector turn-based RPG.
It is a turn-based RPG. It is a hero collector. There's lots of gear. There's lots of factions. It is a game that is essentially next-gen Raid Shadow Legends, if you want to call it that.
Or something like that.
Now, I'll be real. Once again, playing it down the middle here. That's the terminology that corporations want you to use to not call your game a gacha. They will put in your terms and conditions, do not call this a gacha. Call it a turn-based hero collector. So that's probably why he said it that way. Once again, only a probably, but from my experience with contracts, which I have a lot, that's usually why things are called what they're called.
That. And because I watched this video first before looking at the developer gameplay video, I was like, okay, I assume Godforge isn't a gacha then, given that Mtashed apparently doesn't like gachas that much, so like, why would he work on one? right? But lo and behold, this developer gameplay video clearly shows a gacha screen. They even show their unfinished summoning animation, which hopefully they've got one now that's actually finished. So clearly, Godforge is a gacha game. So then why the fuck did Mtashed not just call it that in his video? Was he trying to hide it so that, you know, he can get more people to play it? Because
yes, because that phrase can deter a lot of people. So they like to use fancier terminology that unwise consumers aren't aware of to be like, oh, this isn't a gacha, this is a hero collector. It's the same thing.
Because he's afraid that some people won't play it if they find out that it's a gacha? Or maybe the devs themselves told him not to call it a gacha in his video? Whatever the case, personally, I find it very suspicious that he's working on a gacha game, but in his promotional video for it, he doesn't call it as such. Maybe to the average viewer, this isn't really that big of a deal, but for someone like me, who made a whole-ass video inflating my own fucking ego to enviosity levels calling himself the god of gacha games, it absolutely is. And
no, I don't think that your ego is quite as big as Envy, because Envy, when he said that, he thought people were going to praise him to be the good guy. So much so where he said, I should be the only motherfucker getting praised. Bro literally thought that was a good career move. Because he's dumb as fuck, and that's just how it is.
And the reason why is because, as I alluded to before, gacha games are very distinct from other genres. So much so that we call any game with like an RNG system of distributing playable characters and weapons and other content that you can spend both free and premium currency on, a gacha. Right? Even though gacha games themselves can have wildly different gameplay genres, from things like, you know, turn-based and tower defense to real-time arena combat and even shooters. Think of it this way. When you talk about Genshin Impact, for example, if someone asks you what Genshin is, the first thing that most people would say is that it's a gacha game.
True.
Most people wouldn't call it an open-world action RPG as like the first thing that comes to mind.
True.
Right? Maybe as the second thing to describe what kind of gacha game it is, but certainly not the first. If you play a gacha, you're calling it a gacha because the whole gacha element and the gameplay loop associated with it are such predominant features of these kinds of games. That's why I believe that Mtashed not explicitly calling it a gacha in his promo video is an intentional decision made on either his part or the developers. And regardless of who made it, to me, this comes off as misleading, borderline deceptive even. So now that I have this impression, why the fuck would I ever bother playing this whack-ass Raid Shadow Legends ripoff? Let me give you a case study on another gacha game for comparison's sake, and it's a game that I mentioned briefly in the middle of this video. This game is called FGO, or
Don't play it.
Fate Grand Order for short. This is the very first gacha game I ever played, and it's what got me into gacha games as a whole back in 2017. FGO, like Star Rail, is also a turn-based game, but unlike in Star Rail, there are a lot of mechanics that you have to keep track of if you want to play it optimally. In Star Rail, attacking is pretty simple. When it's your character's turn, you can either select a basic attack or a skill, and when they have their ultimate ready, you can use it at any time so long as that character isn't immobilized somehow, or if it's not currently an enemy's turn. In FGO, on the other hand, your characters, called servants, attack when you select 3 cards out of the 5 that you're dealt at the start of your turn on the bottom right of your screen. Every servant has a particular deck of 5 cards out of a possible total of 6 different deck types, and every deck always has 3 types or colors of cards: Quick, Arts, and Buster. Each type of card is designed to do different things. Quick cards generate crit stars that give your attacks on the next turn a chance to crit. Arts cards generate charge to help servants build up their noble phantasms, or MPs for short, or in other words, their ultimates. And Buster cards do the most damage. You with me so far? When selecting cards to attack, your leadoff card, or your card that you pick first, affects the rest of your card chain depending on its type. A quick leadoff increases both the star generation rate and crit rate of the whole chain by 20%, an arts leadoff increases the MP generation rate of the whole chain by 100%, and a buster leadoff increases the damage of the chain by 50%. There are also card combos that have similar effects. A quick chain, or 3 quick cards, instantly produces 20 stars for for your next turn separate.
Let me explain this. So let me explain the FGO system for anybody who doesn't understand. So the most important thing to do in this game is you press the auto button and then you win. And if you lose, you go to the top-up menu and you spend more money. And then you go back and you win. But if you lose, you go back, you spend more money, and then you win. But if you lose, you go back, spend more money, and then you win. But if you lose...
From all the stars that the quick cards themselves will also produce on that turn, an arts chain or 3 arts.
There is no auto? Yep. Horrible game design. Horrific game design. Why would anybody play this shit?
Arts cards instantly gives every servant who contributed
Maybe you can unlock one if you spend $19.99 every month.
A card to that chain 20% MP charge, and a buster chain or 3 buster cards further increases the damage of that chain by another 20%. There's the brave chain, which happens when you pick 3 cards from the same servant, and this gives that servant a bonus 4th attack that's called the extra attack. There's also the mighty chain, which requires 1 card of each color, and it combines the lead-off effects of all 3 colors. And lastly, depending on the servant, you can get chains that combine card type combos with brave chains. So if, for example, a servant has 3 quick cards available and you select all of them, that's called a quick brave chain. 3 arts cards from the same servant is called an arts brave chain. 3 buster cards from the same servant is a buster brave chain. And if you get 3 cards from the same servant and they're all different colors, that's called a mighty brave chain. Did you get all that? This will be on the test. And you have to keep all that in mind just to figure out which cards you want to use on any given turn, which means that everything we just covered is basic entry-level information. We haven't even talked about how each servant in the game also has 3 skills and a noble phantasm that you have to keep track of. And we haven't even gotten into things like the counterclass system, the attribute system, the
So what you do to play FGO is you see the new banner unit, and then you go into Rule 34, you type their name in, and then you jerk off vigorously.
Random 10% damage window, super
That's
effective
the way that
mobs,
everybody
looping
plays
and
this
reloading, and card counting, among other things. And that's before we get to the part where there are over 400 playable characters in the game. Speaking of servants, let's take a look at a few of them. FGO features both characters who are based on famous figures throughout history, both real and fictional, and their own original characters who have the power to fight alongside these famous figures, not unlike how Mtashed described the premise of Godforge in his video. And in the Godforge developer footage, I noticed that Musashi and Heracles are both playable characters in that game. So here's how they look in FGO. Each servant has 3 different skins by default that you can unlock by ascending them, with their 4th and final ascension giving them a special artwork featuring them in one of those skins. And yes, before you ask, Musashi is a waifu in this game, and for some reason she has a summer variant where she wears an American flag bikini. Don't ask why, it's
because she loves big white dick. That's why. And she needs all us Americans to know she wants huge white cock.
Complicated. Anyways, let's compare their animations. These are their animations in Godforge. And these are their animations in FGO. Even if you...
Hey guys, I'm gonna say it, they're both shit. I'll be real. They're both so bad. Like, come on, man. Like, that shit looked like Babylon Adventure Quest back from fucking, like, 2008, brother. I mean, bro, Payla's Ultimate and Honkai Star Rail looks better than all that shit. Yeah, nah, I mean, that shit lame as fuck, to be honest.
You don't like the anime aesthetic that FGO has. I think there's no question that the animations in FGO are much more impactful than anything you'll see in Godforge so far.
Yeah, and the pre-alpha.
Also, Godforge's character design is pretty generic to me when I'm used to seeing shit like this. Let me end the video by saying this.
Yeah, you need to fix more Godforge by adding in bigger titties and bigger dicks. Yeah, 100%.
Right? I'm sure Fateless and Mtashed 2, for that matter, have worked hard on Godforge. Even if I know nothing about game development, I do know that it's not easy, especially these days. But what I do know is Gacha. And unlike
Thank you for the raid, Emmy. Appreciate the fuck out of that. Thank you so much. Welcome to stream.
Mtashed, I have a lot of experience, perhaps a little too much, with it. I've played lots of different gacha games, I still play most of them that I picked up over the years, and most of all, I actually like playing them, instead of bitching about how I'm about to quit one every other goddamn week. I'm not saying that the Fateless devs should have hired me instead of Mtashed or anything. Again, I'm sure that they had the reasons for bringing him on board, and it's not like Mtashed doesn't know anything about gacha. He has been playing MiHoYo games for the past 3 years, even if it's just on and off, and that's not nothing. But what I am saying is that if the developers of Godforge truly care about giving their game the best chance of success, they should consider looking for another consultant or two who have some actual gacha experience and not just Honkai Star Rail. Oh, and also have him call it a gacha game next time, because that's a pretty important detail y'all left out. And that'll...
Yeah, I'll be real. I feel like bro wants a job. Am I crazy? I feel like bro wants a job.
do it for my rant about Mtashed and his involvement in Godforge. If you liked what I had to say here, make sure to like the video and subscribe. I have more videos like this on the channel and more to come. I got a Patreon in case you want to see your name show up at the end of these videos, and I also...
Yes, I'll be real. Video's kind of weird. I think bro's going in a little bit too hard on pre-alpha footage. Now, once again, could the game be absolute shit? I mean, to be honest, the game's probably going to be shit. But bro's going a little bit hard for pre-alpha footage, man. You know what I'm saying? And bro does come off as better. I think the guy might not like Mtashed. I can't tell. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like the video was a little bit overcooked. What do y'all think? Do you think blood was cooking? Do you think Mtashed is a fraud? In the gacha space, let's be real, he hates the fucking genre. You know how it goes. There was some fair points made by Tuhu. Think he was a little bit too condescending and bitter in his delivery. And yeah, I feel like we're just going a little bit too hard on pre-alpha footage. Anyways, yeah, these guys need to fucking figure this shit the fuck out. But that's just my opinion. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.